So hi guys, my name's Tej. I work for a company called Sizmek. For those not familiar with Sizmek, we're basically an online advertising technology platform. We let brands and advertisers connect a message to consumers. Today I want to really talk about something called relevance in the micro moment. So using location-based sort of advertising and much more engaging creative. I think we can all agree that advertising as a whole is pretty bad. That's me being really nice to it. I think it's really lacked intelligence, it's lacked everything we want it to be, it never has been. And I think we need to get better. And we also, when we think about mobile, we're very much still stuck in a desktop mentality, which we need to shift away and move forward. I think I'm going to start off with the most obvious point, how mobile has actually transformed our lives. And I think it goes without saying, pretty bad for us. And that picture kind of sums up my marriage to a certain degree. I do love my wife, but that's not me clearly. But you know, that's the problem it has, right? We're really anti-social people now. In fact, I found this imagery online and I realised what if it happens if you take mobile away from people in that picture. It's just quite bizarre, you know, how families are engaging. But the point is, I think it's the obvious point that the device is big, it's part of our lives now, it's becoming part of our DNA. And we've never adopted any technology faster. So it becomes a really, really big important point to understand why do we love this device so much. But it comes down to basically having the ability to always access information all the time. We love the ability to text our friends at night, use social media, search something online that's annoying us, etc. But that also creates an always-on, always-present audience, an individual that's always connected. And that's gold dust to a marketer. Because the reality is, where the eyeballs shift, the money follows. And marketers, brands and agencies are trying to figure out the best way to figure out how we can really push messaging to a mobile device. They've done a really bad job about it. To really understand that, we need to take it one step further and start understanding micro moments. Because that's what it's all about when it comes down to mobile. It's the moments we have, understand sort of the personal things that we're doing on our device and how we're kind of engaging. It becomes really, really important to how we connect. And this is where the power of programmatic comes in. Now, I don't want to really go on about programmatic too much, but the whole gist of it is we don't buy in bulk anymore. We buy down to the individual level. It's all about buying at a unique level, to that unique individual, making sure it's connecting right. And also now overlaying that with relevant data sources. And 62% of the ad tech space now, especially from the digital side, is using programmatic from the get-go. That number's going to go up to 82% globally in 2018. So it's going to be used everywhere and adopted because there's a lot of value and a lot of ROI return on this. But really it's about understanding what, where, when and why is a big question. How consumers using their devices. If you're going to kind of reach that one-to-one sort of personalized message. One of the best quotes I found is, where you are is just as important as who you are. If you think about it for a minute. I talked about we're always on, we're always connected. So using location becomes a really, really important part, especially in mobile. And over the next 5 years, you're going to see a rapid growth, especially in the ecosystem of ad spending. 40% is going to be driven towards location-based advertising. And actually apps as well are going to be using location awareness in their apps a lot more. It's going to triple by 2019. So you can see with industry shifting, suddenly we know where the eyeballs are. Now how are we effectively connecting our messaging and are we using the right sources? So to me, mobile advertising needs to do two things, right? Using location to create relevance. That's really the big point I'm trying to make here. And if you can get that right, that's where content and context and content start to merge. Because what are people expecting now? In the moment, personalized, relevant experiences. So how do we get that? What is location-based audience targeting? Well, to the normal person who doesn't know much about location, it's how close are you to a particular store? If I'm close to a particular store, I'm going to send you a message. That's what we think location is. And then they're right to some degree. But we look at it a bit more than that. I look at it in three kind of different ways. It's about yesterday and today. The first point I think is, okay, we're going to geo-fence a certain area, a certain radius on a particular store. The first question I ask is, have they been there before? Look at the historical context of that location. Think about, has the consumer actually been there before? Are they there now? are they going there, and figure out where they're going. Use the data sources. That's pretty much location for me. Using all the data sets that are available. So now when you kind of want to follow the individual, it's about finding that middle ground. It's about finding that value exchange is what you're looking for, because good advertising is about value exchange. It's not about constantly pushing the same old message that no one wants. It's about pulling an audience in. And how does location work? Well, basically in its simple form, we get two numbers. As soon as you use an app or you go to a particular website and it's connected to the programmatic ecosystem, we get what you know as longitude and latitude numbers. Now, how these numbers are made up becomes a big question. Precision. The best way, most precise way, is GPS. So what does that mean? That means, remember when you go on a phone and you go in your app and it says, do you want to use location services? You say yes, you're allowing GPS to be used. And that's really pinpoint. So these numbers, after a decimal point, really matter. The more granular you get, the more precise you can get down to a particular location. Other ways are less so accurate, but they're still needed. You can get latitude, longitude from using your Wi-Fi signal, from an IP address, and from your carrier signal, your O2, your Vodafones, etc. The reality is this: it might not be accurate. I might be here, but it might think I'm maybe 100 meters down the road. It's perfect if you use it for weather, because weather's not going to change that. It depends on your strategy and approach you want to go about using it. But these are the basic ways of how location is kind of made up. But not only that, it's about, before you're going to waste, you don't want to waste money. Who wants to waste money? No one, right? So it's about making sure that it's validated. Location data is actually validated. So we run loads of checks on this. Just generally speaking, make sure, okay, it's not out of bounds, it's not blacklisted, you're not going to Area 51, for example, or something really dodgy. We make sure it's relevant, it's in context. But also, people think that's it. That's not it. That's really further from the truth. It's really about understanding you mapping that location. Also understanding, does that latitude and longitude mean it's a particular store? So, if you take a coffee shop, a Starbucks or a Cafe Nero, is it still there? Or has it now changed its location to somewhere else? You've got to map these information. So we check this against the database system to make sure, actually, you know what, that is the most relevant place it would be. But this is where, obviously, working with James and the guys is where we use 51 degrees really to help us. One part is knowing the location. The second part is identifying the device the consumer is actually using. And this becomes really, really important. Instantaneously recognizing devices is a big part of a strategy approach. And I'll show you how we can marry the data sets together. So the simple way to sum this up, this is how the ecosystem works. Someone goes and visits a site or an app, ideally probably an app, because 80% of usage is an app. Before the app is loaded, information is sent to the whole ecosystem of exchanges. I don't want to complicate it, but we get various data points. And one of them is like a user agent string, and we get unique number character sets. James and Guy's technology understands these numbers, and they can translate it into English with all the different variables and different sets, and they can say actually that number relates to an S4, this particular version. Why is that helpful? Because it allows us to do a lot more strategy with location as well on top of that. So let me give you an example. Samsung S7 just launched. They want to target Carphone Warehouse with a geofence location. Really, really simple. But we want to target an iPhone 6 and a Galaxy S5. Why? Because they know their 2-year contract is coming up. So now you can start putting these strategies and overlaying them together to really make it a more accurate precision. Yes, your target pool becomes really small, but it's more precise. So for us, it's really, if you think about it, having quality lat and long, overlaying that with POI, point of interest data, marrying it with device data, is what we call really quality targeting. And for us, that's really how you're going to make it more relevant and reduce waste. I want to show you a quick case study about this. So location, Morrison's came up to us and said, right, we want to increase footfall, bring the physical world and the digital world together. We want to target people who are also out of the area into Morrison's. We've got a fruit and veg offer, great. I don't really care, I think more for my wife. And we want to geofence the Morrison store. So let me show you a quick video on how we did this. So that's the power where location can really work effectively. And the reason why that works really well is when it comes down to is value exchange. Okay, you pulled the consumers in by offering them an incentive. But the reality is, this is where we need to understand how to do this correctly. Because what we do as an industry is we need to learn how to target people, not over-target. We love bombarding the living hell out of individuals who have no interest whatsoever with the advertising space. In fact, we're the best at cold calling people. I think we lead the space when it comes to that as an industry, right? We bombard people with pointless things. The question becomes is, do you like to be cold called at night? At 8 o'clock in the evening, someone sending you double glazing windows? Probably not, right? But we do it all the time online to everyone around the globe. The reality is, these are the type of conversations when we start, we need to make it personal. We all know that. It's the same old stuff. What we need to understand first is respect the privilege of the consumer. Respect their privilege. I think we over-analyze this way too much and we say, okay, we need to do this, this, and this. Take a step back. You are the consumers first. Think about, would you engage? Would you be interested? Because it leads to that obvious conversation of ad blocking. Something I've actually worked a lot on in the industry space. Ad blocking is what I consider a last resort. It's basically you going X directory or putting a box between your telephone line and your telephone to say, I've had enough of this. Because it's a state of mind that's led to bad engagement. We've got great data sets, but now the actual messaging that we're pushing forward is not corresponding to the user set. So really now the question becomes, are we providing the best user experience from an advertiser perspective to our consumers? It's a great quote here. It was basically, clients and agencies need to understand how consumers relate to their mobile phones. We need to find a way not to be too intrusive when it comes to communicating via mobile. So to answer my own question, we don't provide a good experience, but we need to. I think before the advertising page, the advertising itself is loaded, I think we mentioned it in the last presentation, the consumer's already turned off, he's already gone. Sites and apps are way over-tagged. And it takes forever to load them before the advertising even appears. That's the first problem. And when it does appear, what's the biggest put-off? It takes ages to load and it eats too much data. It's too heavy, too bulky, we're trying way too many things, but when it's too simple, it's also too boring. We can never win. We need to understand what consumers are actually doing. Well, they don't read, they scan. They perform micro tasks on what they do. So there's ways out there to make things less intrusive, still sexy, still light, and still with fast speeds. To make things more engaging, we just need to use better formats of things that are not annoying, that don't pop up, not interstitials, which is basically a 1995 pop-up on your windows. What we need to understand is just simple ads that can be really sexy, that can slowly engage upon the page, upon the user, because whether they like it or not, advertising is part of the ecosystem, right? So they need to engage with it, but let's make it more relevant and more engaging to them. These particular two formats we run, but there's other techniques and features you can use to make advertising so engaging, but yet still light. It's really, really simple to do. And I think there's so many techniques out there with so many different authoring tools in HTML5 to actually do this. But like I said earlier, let's not overcomplicate creative. I think no one wants to see a homepage takeover that was run in 2002 on a mobile device. And that's the big reality, is we need to keep it. Also, we need to find that balancing act in the middle. And this is where I'm a big believer of starting to use features. Mobile features are not used enough in mobile advertising. In the ecosystem, they should be pumped, because it's really simple to engage with. Your accelerometer, you tap to call. Here's a simple way of how I've just taken a piece of JavaScript and made it engage with the consumer on an ad or an app. Any sort of advertising initially has their 4, 5, 6 second engagement period, or you can do what you like, and then it's going to go back into a static mode. That's it. Effectively after that, it might as well be an image. As a user scrolls up and down the page, why don't you bring the advertising back to life again? Just a simple piece of JavaScript that allows you to do that. Or another way to look at it is, what about if the ad's not even in view? Why are you even considering playing the advertising in the first place? Play it as soon as it becomes in view, then give the consumer the option. And one of the things we don't utilize very well at all in our space is video. When you start thinking about how you're going to get messaging right and relevant, the biggest medium now is video. It's used more on mobile than it is on a desktop. But my word, do we get it wrong? And do we get the strategy completely wrong when it comes to video? I think there's a big line of understanding how to use it. A lot of agencies, a lot of advertisers are still seeing it as an extension of TV. It shocks me to even have this conversation with some of these people nowadays. The reality is, TV ads belong on TV. Keep them there. We don't want them nowhere close to our mobile devices. Because the reality is completely two different mindsets of usage. A mobile phone needs to have its own unique way of engagement. Because the reality is that 30% of the screen time when it comes to advertising is in vertical mode. The majority of the time it's vertical. You only have a leaned back experience, it's horizontal, when it's over like a minute long, the content. And then you start engaging, so okay, cool, I'm going to make the choice to unslide my phone, go horizontal and engage with it, or landscape. The reality is also vertical video has 9 times more completion rates according to Snapchat. Think about video is never even going to have sound on straight away. How can you make it engaging? These are ways and means. We have the data, now we need to make the creative more engaging. So how do you make it work with no sound? Well, simple, right? 86% of video is on mute. This is a Vine, I'm a big Vine user. This is a random guy trying to get with his girlfriend, but he gets with the mother. So the mother-in-law instead. Yeah, pretty good, I like it. But the thing is, you can make it quite engaging and you can make it work in silent mode as well. We just start thinking outside the box. So when it comes down to video, think about it. It needs to be short, seamless, intuitive, tailored. It needs to be optimized for the smaller screen. And when you can start doing that, you can come up with really cool examples. This is a laid-back example now of a strategy that we ran with in Amazon here. It's a different approach. Whereas these guys here in Battlefield said, we want to go vertical, Tej, but we don't have the assets. So fine, we can make out a custom format for you. That's still engaging, it's not intrusive, that fits the whole screen and suits it to a mobile device. Taking that one step further now, I talked a lot about at the beginning about how you can make things relevant and how you can make them really engaging. Taking the elements that we've just learned, overlaying it with particular data sources is what we now need to understand. And what are those data sources that we're getting compared to desktop? Desktop, we don't get as half the signals that we do compared to on a mobile device. And that actually allows us to create more interesting creatives. Why? Because we can use something called dynamic creative optimization now. Most creative from the get-go should theoretically be an empty shell. The animation should be pumped in afterwards, because animations and sort of imagery and text should change depending on the user's location, the weather around the situation, what is going on around them, how did they previously engage. Advertising needs to follow suit. Simple example here from BMW, based on weather. The advertising message changed, the image changed depending on the weather or that particular location. You can see, it's raining, you have a different ad, etc. But now I want to combine that DCO, making it dynamic with location. what I talked about earlier. How can we bring these all together to really make it more engaging and more relevant to our consumer set? Here's an example for Domino's. So, targeting users 5 to 100 meter radius away from Domino's shop. Target people that are near Pizza Hut, because they don't like Pizza Hut. And have they previously visited that same location in the last 6 months? Serve them a dynamically optimized ad for that location and give them an offer that suits that particular location's requirements. Is how you can do it. It's HTML5, it's engaging, it's dynamic, it's using relevant information for its surroundings, and it's bringing it together. But you can also take that one step further and serve 2 different messages in the same location. So McDonald's, you got it's like fillet of fish or something, and you've got an ice cream. What I'm saying is the options are there. We start utilising and pushing them forward. In Australia, we took it one step further. We actually wanted to see if this all actually works together. And we want to say, okay, let's take a dynamic ad, let's take an automotive client, because when you want to go to a showroom, the radius is a lot bigger. It's a lot bigger than radius. So we went to Sydney, at one of our offices out there, and we tested how this all works. So we geofenced 4 stores against 4 different creative messaging. And this is kind of how it all came together. You can see some sad guy on a Saturday went out and started recording himself. But you can see as he went to different sort of geo locations, different messaging was served to him. And to me this is pretty powerful because it's pretty relevant to that location in that area. Just to really sum up, keep it quite brief. To me, location and relevance comes down to understanding the content and context of the user. Understand the location they're in, understand what they've done, understand how they've engaged. Make the creative engaging too. Because that's how we're going to create that one-to-one reach. And that's kind of how we're going to create this cheesy Spock, Harry Potter slide image. That's how we're going to create relevance in a micro moment. Thank you.